Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Your Data HQ. We have Anupama here with us today, who's here to share her experience as a data professional. So she's a data science professional with over 11 plus years of experience in building solutions across retail, banking, and financial services industry, edtech, sustainability advocate, and she's currently working as a senior consultant with Capco. So thank you, Anupama, for being here with us today to share your experience.
Thank you, Sanjana, for inviting me to share my experiences.
Okay, so we can get started with how and why you got into data science.
Sure. So actually, I would say this in the form of pre-maternity and post-maternity. So my experience before my maternity was actually into data, where I was majorly involved into market research. And being a statistics and an economics major, I was always involved into doing a lot of statistical analysis for and around data.
Mm-hmm.
And that was majorly around retail, banking, and developing a lot of business insights. So that was during that is something which I did for like 6 to 7 years. And gradually, when I was on a career break, that's the time when I thought that, okay, let's just venture into and explore further. And that's the time where I understood what data science is, or rather, I was more or less introduced of what data science was. This was somewhere around 2015, 2016. Because I figured out that yes, this is the area where the world is actually going to go and move, and I could see a lot of opportunities in and around there. So that's where I explored the different programming tools, learned more about machine learning, and at the same time, because I was coming in from economics and statistics, transformed and understood more how these algorithms could be used to further develop more business insights and better predictions.
Got it. So I think your background, which has like a variety, would actually give you a lot more, ability to imbibe the semantics in context and apply it as a data scientist. And it's actually, very nice to hear that you actually discovered this path, or rather like putting together your experience into a new direction, into a new career path after a break. Because a lot of people dread taking breaks because they think that once they take a break, they're out of the rat race. But actually, taking breaks can be a bliss to actually, realign yourself with the next big thing.
Yeah.
Like it could be data science, it could be quantum, it could be something completely different, like agricultural revolution, the next one. So
I think this is very specific. So people do take breaks, right? And one very important thing which I figured out is that it's during these breaks that you actually get a time to explore and understand maybe your passion in and around, and see that what is it next that you want to take up in your professional growth, in your career growth, and in life in general, right? So that's where I chose data science, because somewhere I really enjoyed playing around with numbers, playing around, exploring a lot of data. And I think this is something which we all do in and around, consciously, unconsciously, but we do it. Right? So why not just make it our profession that way?
Yeah. So that's amazing how, you took that break and processed what's best for you and, started down this path. So what was involved in transitioning into the path? So even though you have like, a variety and such an interesting background, there must have been some preparations to convince people that, you are right for this role. So how was that transition path?
So I think during the transition in itself, I was always ready to take up a lot of projects voluntarily. So during my journey of actually learning things, learning machine learning, learning deep learning, and the concepts in and around it, what I did was I just partnered with a lot of people explored their problem areas, a lot of businesses that ways, and explored what are their problem statements, and just ventured into solving those problems, because I think that is where I got a lot of learning and understanding, practical learning and experience rather, just exploring solutions for their problems. So that was one key strategy that helped me progress quickly, because once you volunteer and venture into, while you're learning, you are also growing. And there could be a lot of challenges during this whole transition and learning, and there is a learning curve for everyone.
Yeah.
But how quickly you can come out of this learning curve and bring it to your advantage is what matters, right? So that's what I did. Wherever I could find out problems, not just something which is related to core my background, because my background is very much into finance, but then I also ventured into other projects also. So I did I did a lot of other things, like taking up a lot of hackathons, participating into Kaggle workshops. And at the same time, I have also been teaching data science whenever and wherever I could get the opportunity. So that is something which is again a very important strategy for anyone to grow quickly and learn quickly.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
definitely.
understand the dynamics of the whole industry. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. So it's like sort of playing the role even before that role is given to you, sort of volunteer and pick up
Yeah.
projects. And the one thing about learning curve is everybody does have their own learning curve. But the problem that most people face is the lack of space to figure out their learning curve and the space to grow as such. So
Yeah.
my insight on that would be to like actually figure out a place that lets you, learn and grow, gives you time to like do that, actually take the course of that learning curve. And if you need help, get it from a community. There are so many communities, such as like there's Locally Optimistic, even YDHQ has its own Slack community. So find your community, find your mentors, find a place that lets you grow. And most importantly, when you've ridden the course of your learning curve, pay it forward, and find a mentee and let the cycle keep going.
Yeah, definitely. That's very, very important, because I think the whole analytics space in general is a place where it's not just that you just learned something and that is something which you can take over for your entire career.
Yeah.
It's a space where you need to keep learning, keep upskilling, keep exploring. And again, this learning curve is not just one time. You'll face it many times, like I face it many times, right? Because it's an amalgamation of two important things. One is, yes, your knowledge about the core concepts knowledge, which is in terms of, say, statistics, your background, or your computer or your coding skills. And at the same time, an important aspect is to whatever business problem or to whatever problem that you're trying to solve, the domain knowledge of it, the people who understand the industry and the background around it. So even working together with them and understanding that perspective is also very important, because that's where you bring it into this whole space of analytics. And whatever way whatever solutions that you're building in is not just a one-way solution, but it is a solution where you may build up use cases, you build up smaller sample solutions, you try it out, maybe you succeed, you fail, and then come back to it. It's like you're just learning in and around it. So that's very important in this, for anyone who is working in the analytics space, to keep growing.
Yeah, I completely agree. So can you tell us about a really cool project you worked on?
I would, okay, so there are not just one cool project. I think all my projects, I feel that they're really cool. But there's one thing, in my initial learning days, there was a project which was, I was working for one of the insurance clients. The problem was that I had no idea about the whole insurance space at that point of time. And that in itself, why I say it was a really cool project is because I got to learn so much. I had to just come out of my comfort zone, learn the industry dynamics, and at the same time learn the concepts, the ML concepts and the DL concepts out there, right? So that was one very cool project. And eventually I learned how to build around an app for this client, where we build up an app and which had a prediction algorithm on how they could, bring more business for their policy holders, basis understanding their policy holders behavior, right? And that's where I learned a lot. So that was a very cool project. That project really worked, went on for like a good 6 to 8 months. And ideally for any data science project, I think 6 to 8 months is the minimum time that one needs to venture into, to just understand the dynamics of data, domain, and core.
Yeah.
Right. So that was one thing which I did. Then there was another project where one of our banking, I worked for a banking client where they were working on their marketing strategies, building on trying to come up with better strategies that could help bring in new customers, and at the same time maintain and reduce their customer attrition around it. Right. So that was another interesting project where I got to learn, and I worked on a huge data set, right? So because again, it's a banking customer, it was a banking client for me. So understanding customer demogs out there and the customer behavior and bringing those things into the modeling aspects and the mathematical models that we build, that's quite something which really fascinates me.
Yeah.
So these were some two very interesting projects that I can think of now.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think in my job, every day is very, very exploratory, where each day I come across a completely different kind of a problem. So it's not something which is monotonous. It is not something where it is repetitive at the same time. It's just a learning journey for me every day, Sanjana. Yeah.
That's very inspiring. And that's also one reason why, data science or this analytics space is also one of the most sought out career choices, just because of the variety it provides on a daily basis, the amount of, mental stimulation it provides to you on a daily basis. That's definitely amazing. And you always keep growing. Especially these days, there's like such a revolution in the data space, like so many tools to explore, so many new domains exploring, how so many new domains and industries exploring how they can apply, data and ML in their businesses, and, sort of solutioning for all of that is very exciting. It's an exciting time to be here.
Yeah, and I think one very important part is when you're working with different domains, though it looks very simple, but I think that's the core for any data science problem, and that is to get the right kind of data, which is really representative of the problem, and which is at the same time very futuristic, that could help bring in predictions better, and just help solving the problem in a more efficient and a faster way. So which is a very important part of any problem that you're trying to solve, right? To get the right amount and the right variety of data.
Yes, correct. So I think that's also something businesses should keep in mind, rather than collect anything and everything possible, or even worse, rather omit something that's very important to collect. Start with that phase, like start with exploring what data makes sense and what context makes sense, rather than just giving a bunch of data to a data scientist and say, like, bring business results. It really doesn't work that way, because unlike other software life cycles, the data science life cycle is very dependent on the data, and completely can change.
Very much, yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So with such an evolving field, right, how do you stay updated with the advances? Do you have an upskilling schedule or plan?
I do. So I do follow a lot of, first of all, I think the MOOCs, they're the best way to just keep that keep me updated time and again. Other than that, I do follow a lot of experts, people who are Kaggle experts, who are grandmasters. I follow them because the best part is following them will actually bring you to those out of box thinking, because that's one of a prerequisite for any data scientist to solve a problem, is to be an out of box thinker, to look at the same problem from different angles and explore which way could be more profitable and more better. So I do follow a lot of these experts, and at the same time, my go-to places to read around is like blogs, which we daily see on, say, Medium or Data Science Central, KD Nuggets. So these are some platforms which I just follow religiously. And I also, whenever I've got a little bit of bandwidth, just participate in hackathons. So very recently, there was a WIDS Datathon, which Kaggle came up with, and women in data science together, they merged in and they came up with. So I just keep on exploring their problems and see how to what level can I bring in solutions. That's one very good way to keep I keep myself updated.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of endpoints to follow and keep updated, and people listening can pick what works for them from here to add to their upskilling schedule or plan.
Yeah.
So
And one more thing is follow LinkedIn, because in LinkedIn, people do give you a lot of tips in around maybe for the books that you would want to invest in, maybe for the shows, maybe for the conferences that you would really want to attend. So those are some areas where one can really invest and stay updated.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good advice. So finally, outside work, what do you enjoy and get inspired by?
So, Sanjana, apart from being so data science is my full-time job. It's my profession. That's where I'm paid. Other than that, I am also a sustainability advocate, and that's where I'm very religiously venturing into learning about ESG and circular economy. I am working extensively with in these areas to understand the different business models, and majorly I'm focusing on ESG metrics, because I think that's also an area where analytics play a very important role, not just for now, but for the future years, right? So it's a space where one should venture into, because there's a lot of opportunities there. So that's what I do. I'm also a Teach for India alum, so whenever I get the time, I do venture into exploring and just sharing my knowledge with kids who were once my who once I used to teach them, and other than that, yeah, I think just I'm these days I'm completely into sustainability. So wherever and whatever I get, I just consume that piece of information, and I'm just trying to figure out that how can I contribute to this area. So that's something which really keeps me inspired for now.
Yeah, and I think it's very important for all of us to start thinking about it, because rather than just from the opportunity point of view, this is the only way we're moving forward. Rather than, just think about what businesses make a ton of money, it's about what sustains us,
Yeah,
because we can't just make a ton of money and just disappear, poof, right? We do have
right.
to continue living, and the next generation needs to continue living. So it's important that if each of us has time to think about, the sustainability side of things as well. And can you explain
Yeah,
more
I
on
think
what ESG metrics mean?
so. Yeah, so ESG metrics. So the whole ESG in itself is like a combination of three big terms. One is so E stands for environment, S stands for social, and G stands for governance. So what we're doing is So companies and businesses have to come under this big, huge ESG umbrella where everyone has to prove in where they are moving towards, making efforts to make environment more a more safer place for
Mhm.
people to live in. When I talk about S, that means it could be the social aspect of it. That would mean the diversity that we're bringing in. It could be anything related to your customers, to
Mhm.
employees, to people, to humans in and around. That is the S aspect of it. And G is the governance, the overall legal framework that you do into um, um, uh, how the companies are overall managed with the different kind of board and the directors that in coming in, maybe the thought leadership that is coming into in. So that's where businesses and a lot of organizations are coming into building in a kind of a metric or a score basis which they can be measured on a domain level, on a sector level, on a country level rather, so that's what majorly ESG matrix does into. So combining all their efforts, and at the end of the day, it is not just about bringing in profits that companies should aim, but companies have to aim with profits that are with a purpose, right? So that's the broader idea of building up ESG metrics.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I think throughout this podcast, you've been giving a lot of insights, advices, and a lot of great tips. But if you were to summarize and give them to someone new to data science or ML, what would it be?
So anyone who's venturing into ML or data science, the first and the most basic thing is to brush up on the basics, because it's not just about building or just coding um, around some data, but it is more about um, interpreting in a way that decisions are fruitful. And a lot of investments has been done when we're talking about investing into analytics or AI or machine learning for that matter. So just the first and foremost thing for anyone getting into this is to just brush up on their basics. So basics, when I say, is brush up on, have some good knowledge about mathematics, about statistics, about calculus, because these are very, very important things when one ventures into data science specifically. And other than that is, yes, invest more into learning the new tools,
Mhm.
and at the same time understanding what is the idea behind those tools, because it's not something which like one size fits all approach which works, right? So you have to do a good mix of learning different kind of tools, which could be something related to data engineering, which could be something related to data governance, and contributingly bringing up as a team, working in as a team, because that's where you will understand that how those different dynamics of solving a problem using data works for say your department, your organization, or the environment as a whole, to just understand the whole ecosystem. So that's very important here. And yes, keep exploring, keep following people. You get to learn from, and keep speaking to a lot of people, because when you interact with a lot of people, you just, as it is, learn and grow.
Yeah, that is very true. It's very important to, practice listening to others, just reading things. That's like the easiest way you can be updated rather than go in search of random courses. I mean, courses help too for structured learning, but it's these small information nuggets that you get here and there. If you know the right people to
Yeah,
follow, that is going to take you a long way. So
true.
thank you, Anupama. This was a very insightful and very exciting podcast interview. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Sanjana. It was wonderful talking to you, and let's stay connected.
Yeah. And thank you, listeners, too.
Thank you.
Bye.